There's a good chance that you are stressed at work. There's also a good chance, if you're watching this, that you're feeling very uncertain, that your well-being is suffering and that your sleep is suffering. That is a different problem. Stress is quite normal in a workplace situation. Coercive control and manipulation isn't. So you might be asking yourself, what the hell is going on right now? Why am I feeling like this? Am I going crazy? One of the hardest things about toxic management is that it looks like every other manager on the surface, but then it isn't. In this video, I want to start helping you understand what is that difference between healthy management influence and coercive control of a toxic manager. This video is part of my Toxic Manager Field Guide, video number 2. Go and watch video number 1 if you want to catch up. My name is Mel. I have worked for more than 3 decades in human resources and employment relations here in New Zealand. Because what I'd like for you to do is stop asking, do I just need to work harder and this is going to get better? What can I do to change their mood? If I'm just nicer, then they'll be different. In these types of relationships, more effort doesn't fix anything. In fact, it might just make the situation worse. When a manager is coaching you, the goal of that is for you to achieve the business results. It could also sometimes be to build your performance or build your capability. Don't misunderstand me. Coaching or good management isn't necessarily always comfortable. It can be uncomfortable. They might need to stretch you, they might need to talk to you about your performance or your behavior. And that's perfectly understandable from proper management perspective. And you feel like your efforts of work is actually leading you somewhere. You're getting somewhere with it. You're growing in your performance. You're growing in your role. You're growing in responsibilities and autonomy. You've been explained what good looks like. There is a stable set of expectations for you. You receive feedback that actually improves your performance at work. You get recognition for the work that you do, but most importantly, you get the sense that you can operate, think, interact, contribute like a professional adult. There will definitely be pressure. Which workplace doesn't have pressure nowadays? You're not constantly wondering what the hell is going on. When a manager is busy controlling you, it feels completely different. You end up serving the manager rather than the team, the business, the client, your own job. That's the fundamental difference. At first it can seem quite normal on the surface. The manager might be very charming, they might praise you, they might say really good things about you. The main thing to watch for is the impact all of this is having on you personally. So when you're being managed by a toxic manager, you might be experiencing some of the following. You feel smaller over time. You second guess yourself on decisions that you might have made really easily before. You start to become dependent on them for things like their approval. You constantly watch their mood. You also lose your confidence. You might feel like you're losing your voice. And in some cases, you might even feel like you're losing your sense of yourself at work. So a toxic manager would often keep you really close to them, blocking your growth, as opposed to advancing your growth. They don't really want to lose you because your output backs up their success. But at the same time, they also don't want you to start getting the spotlight, for you to become more visible, for people to see your capability. So what is the test you can use? What is the difference between healthy management influence and coercive control used by a toxic manager? So influence in and of itself isn't a problem. The thing is, at work, is it fair? Is it transparent? Or is it being used to create compliance in you? Is it being used to create uncertainty and pressure in you? With healthy influence, you would find transparency. You would get credit and reward. There would be direct communication. That is a very crucial one. Expectations are set. Feedback is pretty clear. Toxic control, on the other hand, is different. There's pressure or there's threats. So it's do this X, Y, and Z, or else there is a one-sided benefit for the manager and your growth is limited. There is indirect communication. The goal is control, it's confusion, it's deflection. And There's a certain dependency that gets built into the relationship. Is the simple explanation for that. Because it works. So whilst you aren't creating that work pattern, you are complying with it. You are cooperating with their methods. And here is the really confusing thing. A conscientious person goes from the perspective that the more I put in, the more I get out, the more everybody else gets out. It's like a win-win situation. But when you get caught in this control cycle with a toxic manager, the more effort you put in, you actually fuel the situation, because that's exactly what they want. So don't see this as a flaw. This is part of your character, and it's a good part of your character. I've said before, I don't ask for people to change who they are. All I ask is that they start protecting themselves from what is happening to them. Your body starts showing signs of stress. Your sleep suffers. Your confidence becomes completely eroded, and you stop trusting yourself. So what's the solution to all of this? Well, my solution to this, and the way that I've used it with myself, is I put protection in place from the inside. Because, as I've said in my previous video, defensiveness is not an answer for us. Because you want your energy back, because you want your self-worth back, because you want your well-being back. These are very valuable things that can get lost when you're caught in a toxic relationship with a manager. Because you are not the problem, but you have a problem, and we want to solve it. The first thing you want to do is situational awareness. Get clear on what situation you're currently in. What is the reality of the situation you are busy experiencing? And in order to face the reality, we have to name the problem. And what do? You start paying attention. You start tracking what it is they're doing. You start documenting what it is they are saying and doing. You start keeping records. You start keeping emails. And then you start spotting the patterns. The next thing we want to focus on is some professional armor. Toxic managers scan for specific people. So this is where that unprotectedness, the habit of leaving ourselves vulnerable, really matter. If you really want to understand whether this is something that you are doing, these are the common patterns that you might present within yourself. Firstly, seeking approval. Then conflict avoidance. Then automatically saying yes, either silently or verbally, to any request or demand. Over-adapting to the situation, over-reliance on other people or the manager, and compliance with everything and anything they bring up. Your behavior is not bad. None of this is bad. Please don't misunderstand me. But it leaves you vulnerable and unprotected when you're dealing with a toxic manager. And then they take advantage of that. So the point is to reduce their level of control over your behavior. And then the third thing we are going to be talking about in this series is counter control. You're going to need to get really practical when it comes to counter control. You're going to need to unlearn certain things that you might be doing with that toxic manager, because it comes naturally to you, but not because you're broken or flawed, but because you're wanting to provide yourself protection in that specific situation. The thing is, you want to get to a point where you can understand, is this a situation that I can protect myself in, that I can stay in, or is this a situation where I actually need to leave? You want to become really aware of what's happening. You want to make sure that you have your professional armor in place. And then you want to get to a point where you understand the situation so that you can start making decisions, so that you can counter control. You can download the Dirty Dozen worksheet. I also have another assessment that you can do, which helps you understand whether you're in a toxic management relationship or not. Why don't you download that, get your baseline and see what's happening, and then we can figure out your next steps.